U.S. Postal Service released its review of mail-in balloting from the last election with some insanely impressive results. 99.22 million ballots processed in the 2024 general election.
Last weekend's Southern labor, we take a look at what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to last week. Here's what they were up to from January 17th to 24th in new union campaigns. 500 workers at 5 popular restaurants owned by 2 famous restaurateurs, Les Diplomats, St. Anselm, and Pastis from Stephen Starr, and Rasika Penn Quarter and Modena from Ashok Bajaj in Washington, D.C., all announced their intent to unionize with Unite Here Local 25 and sought voluntary recognition. So far, it appears that at least St. Anselm and Pastis have declined because 95 workers at St. Anselm and 104 workers at Pastis have filed petitions to hold union elections with Unite Here Local 25. Additionally, the union has filed a complaint with the James Beard Foundation Awards Ethics Committee calling for an investigation into Rasiki, alleging, quote, inhumane, exploitative, or unlawful workplace practices, retaliation against workers who raise legitimate concerns, stealing of wages or tips, and bullying through conduct, as well as starting a, quote, aggressive anti-union campaign. According to the Washington, D.C. Eater, JBF's Code of Ethics state that a credible allegation may result in the disqualification of an entrant, nominee, or semi-finalist, as well as prohibit them from using the seal logo or image tied to its 35-year-old awards program. This complaint also coincided with the union filing a ULP alleging the same actions with the NLRB. 410 workers at Credence Management Solutions in Washington, D.C. filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, Local 1900. 15 workers at Wayne Farms in Enterprise, Alabama, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW. 61 workers at FSCX at Fort Rucker, Alabama, filed a petition to hold a union election with the IAMAW. 12 workers at Starbucks in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with Starbucks Workers United. 16 security guards at South Texas Project Nuclear Operating Company in Bay City, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Union of Security, Police, and Fire Professionals of America, SPFPA. 20 workers at Reconsidered Goods in Greensboro, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, RWDSU. 10 workers at Southeastern Service Corporation, a Compass Group company in Tampa, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE. 19 workers at the American Red Cross in Tulsa, Oklahoma, filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 1000, and 225 security guards at MVM in El Paso, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Government Security Officers of America, UGSOA, Local 332. In election results, 28 workers at the Veterans Affairs National Cemetery Administration's Memorial Products Service at 3 remote processing facilities in Illinois, Kansas, and Tennessee voted 14-0 in favor of unionization with the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, Local 17. 3 workers at Tucker Castleberry Printing in Atlanta, Georgia, filed a petition for a union election with the Printing, Packaging, and Production Workers Union, Local 527M, but withdrew the petition in the same week. 14 workers at the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network in Washington, D.C. withdrew their petition for a union election with the Pacific Media Workers Guild, a News Guild CWA affiliate, Local 39521. They did confirm with us that that is because they secured voluntary recognition. 25 workers at the North Carolina Association of Educators in Raleigh, North Carolina, withdrew their petition for a union election with the North Carolina Staff Organization. 202 workers at Phoenix Paper Wickliffe in Wickliffe, Kentucky withdrew their petition for a union election with the IAMAW. 1,350 principals, supervisors, and administrators in Fairfax County, Virginia voted 96% in favor of unionization with the Fairfax County Federation of Principals, Supervisors, and Administrators. This follows a massive union win among school staff and their recent contract ratification in the same county. Workers at Wilmington Terminal Railroad, a subsidiary of Gunnesian, Wyoming in Wilmington, North Carolina, voted unanimously in favor of unionization with the Sheet Metal, Air, and Rail and Transportation Workers Union, SMART. In strikes and bargaining updates, members of SMART recently voted to ratify a national collective bargaining agreement with the National Carriers Conference Committee, NCCC. The 5-year contract provides wage increases of 18.8%, enhancements to health and welfare benefits with no increase to employee contribution rates, and access to more paid vacation time for employers earlier in their careers. Low-wage workers, bus riders, and Z-Trip IRIS drivers with stand-up Kansas City joined the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, Local 1287 members and community allies to rally against cuts to bus routes and union driver and maintenance jobs in the Kansas City Area Transit Authority's budget.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Costco Teamsters nationwide have voted by an overwhelming 85% margin to authorize a strike. The vote is a direct result of the company's continued failure to bargain constructively and refusal to present a fair contract offer that reflects the company's record-breaking profits. The Costco Teamsters National Master Agreement, covering more than 18,000 Costco workers nationwide, expires on January 31st. Costco recently reported $254 billion in annual revenue and $7.4 billion in net profits, a 135% increase since 2018. Reports continue to trickle out about the state of bargaining between the UAW and Volkswagen regarding the Chattanooga facility. So far, the highlights are an offer of a 14% raise over 4 years plus cost of living adjustments, but the UAW said that won't cut it, in no small part because the COLA would be capped at 25 cents an hour a year. The Society of Professional Engineering Employees in Aerospace, SPEA, an IFPTE affiliate, is investigating Boeing, where the union represents 17,000 engineers in Seattle, over allegations that it is sending union work to non-union locations. Hays County EMS workers, unionized with the Communication Workers of America, Local 6115 in Texas, ratified their first union contract after winning their union in September of 2023. The union says the contract includes raises, additional pay for bilingual workers, and an expanded retirement plan. 45 workers for Hertz at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport unionized with the Teamsters. Local 745 went on strike last week after the company refused to agree to a fair contract. Workers voted down a subpar offer on January 17th and have been on strike since the 18th. The strike is an indefinite one. Nurses at University Medical Center in New Orleans, Louisiana, unionized with the National Nurses Union, NNU, voted to authorize a second strike as the hospital continues to stonewall at the bargaining table. The 2-day strike will take place on February 5th and 6th. Amtrak dining car stewards unionized with SMART ratified a contract that secured a 40% raise over the 7-year life of the contract from 2022 to 2028, along with 10 weeks of paid parental leave, a new holiday, and more. As Starbucks workers continue to fight for a new contract, the new CEO, Brian Niccol, was paid $96 million for just 4 months of work last year. That's insane. In political and legislative updates, the U.S. Court of Federal Claims ruled in favor of the Associated Builders and Contractors, ABC, the non-union trade construction organization, a bunch of scabs, saying that Biden's executive order mandating project labor agreements, PLAs, which are agreements with the area building trade unions setting wage, safety, and training standards on projects, Biden's executive order on mandating PLAs on federal construction over $35 million is illegal, again, according to this U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Biden's PLA executive order, however, so far has not been among those rescinded by Trump. So we are anticipating a repeal of that decision. And an appeal of that decision. Sorry. Trump's flurry of executive orders have particularly attacked federal workers, instituting a hiring freeze, despite the fact that the federal workforce has only grown 6%, despite a 57% population growth in 50 years, trying to severely cut back telework, even though telework has not been tied to a loss in productivity, and attempting to politicize the federal service by doing away with merit-based hiring for who knows how many thousands of positions. AFGE, along with others, is suing DOGE, saying that it is not complying with the Federal Advisory Committee Act, FACA, because DOGE's members do not have a fair balance of viewpoints, meetings are held in secret and without public notice, and records and work product are not available to the public. AFGE says they previously sent a letter to Trump transition co-chairs Howard Lutnick and Linda McMahon regarding their concerns about the failure to comply with this law and requesting representation on the advisory group to ensure that it met the law's requirements. A Trump transition spokesperson rejected the request, saying, quote, "We have no room in our administration for Democrats." Public Citizen and AFGE have yet to receive responses. The U.S. Postal Service released its review of mail-in balloting from the last election with some insanely impressive results. Here we go. The Postal Service processed 99.22 million ballots in the 2024 general election, and 99.88% of all ballots were delivered from voters to election officials within 7 days. 97.73% of ballots were delivered from voters to election officials within 3 days. Less than 2 days on average for ballots to deliver from election officials to voters, and 1 day on average to deliver ballots from voters back to election officials. That is impressive. Surprisingly, Rohit Chopra, Biden's head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is still at the post at the end of Trump's first week in office. Peter Navarro, who is currently serving as a senior counselor to the president, has expressed support for him in the past, saying, quote, "The MAGA folks should embrace him." David Dayen reports for the American Prospect that businesses being regulated by the CFPB are big mad. You'll remember that Elon Musk expressed explicit interest in, quote, deleting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. While Chopra is still fighting for consumers, only last week announcing a new settlement with Argus Information and Advisory Services, which is a serial violator of financial and data privacy laws, and issued a new request for information on the consumer credit market. While Chopra is still fighting for consumers in those ways, after having made corporate criminals return $6 billion to consumers and pay $3 billion in civil penalties, Lena Khan's replacement at the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, announced all the work that he is doing eliminating DEI at the FTC, time that he could have spent protecting consumers. The North Carolina Republican Congressperson Greg Murphy, also a doctor, is calling for United Healthcare to be broken up. UAW President Shawn Fain wrote in an op-ed for the Washington Post that the union is ready to work with President Trump on trade policy, and Congress passed the Lake and Riley Act last week, which would require mandatory detention of undocumented immigrants simply accused of a crime, a move that even ICE has said is simply not possible, and that will undoubtedly line the pockets of the private prison industrial complex.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.